Good morning and welcome to Morning Brew with the Homeowners. I'm your host, Dmitry Lipinski, a former contractor with 20 years experience in the trade. Get some coffee going, tea going, whatever you need to wake up today. I opted in today for my electrolyte water, actually. I figured out I'm drinking way too much coffee lately, and all I need today to really function is electrolytes. So I'm not sponsored by this brand. Is awesome. Salt of the Earth is the name. My co-hosts today are Randy Harteta and Jason Reisman from Florida and Texas. Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning.
Morning.
We have probably the spiciest questions from the homeowners today. I cannot wait to read you and discuss all of these questions that people have been sending us. If you have a question for us, you can text them to me. My number is 612-558-4881. I will respond to every single question. And if the question is good enough, we'll answer it publicly on this radio show. Guys, let's get to it. I cannot wait to share some of these stories because they are crazy. Let's start with this one. The first one comes from Miss Jen 170. My landlord paid a highly advertised company to install a new roof on Monday. One of the roofers was wearing flip-flops and another had his wife and children playing in my backyard. They installed the roof, which led to fire within a wall of my bathroom, same day as install. After fire department left, roofing company took that part of roof with them. I don't know what they took, but I feel very uneasy about it. My question is, how common are accidents like this, and what is the correct way they should be handled? I'm a renter and a foster mom to a young child and feel like a burden has been placed on my family I didn't ask for. Crazy story. What do you guys think?
Go ahead,
Well,
Randy.
I would actually say, first and foremost, bless you for being a foster mom. That's awesome. Second, I don't know what they were doing. I mean, outside of doing maybe some flat roofing where they were using a torch down product, I don't know what they were doing that would cause a fire.
It's probably what it is. Looks like one of those additions, and yeah, that's the most common fires in the roofing industry. Torch down, maybe colder applications.
I got an idea what the fire could be because I've seen this happen before. So a decking nail could penetrate and hit a live wire and cause a fire. And more than likely, the landlord had the roofer take the piece of plywood away. Just lack of evidence. It's probably not even the roofer. It's probably the landlord. Seen this happen before. And props to the roofer. He's probably from Florida. He's wearing some sandals, and he might be hitting the beach afterwards. Not the greatest for your feet when you step on nails. I went to a job site yesterday and came back, and you could hear the nails in my shoes. So I don't know any roofer that actually does wear sandals, but he's probably a Florida roofer if he does. But no, that's a bad sign. First and foremost, if any kids show up to a roofing job site or anything like that, totally unprofessional.
Yeah.
And more than likely, the roofing job itself is going to be unprofessional. But it could just be a simple accident on the fire, which sucks. More than likely, it was a live wire that got hit by a decking nail.
Flip-flops is a no-no in my book. If anybody shows up at your job at flip-flops, I don't want to hate on roofers or tradesmen, but talking about safety, I've seen way too many legs being poked on the jobs, especially roofing jobs, right? Like flip-flops is just, I feel like it's disrespect. If you're professional, you have to walk professional, talk professional, dress professional, and flip-flops is a no-no. Kids, I've brought my kids to the jobs not to play, but to work. If I'm bringing my kids, they're not playing around. They're picking up nails and they're doing work, and they're getting paid for that. They should not be playing around. Another thing here too, big controversy. I've covered quite a few stories where tenant would publish negative review on a roofer, and big argument is, do they have a right to do that? Because they're not a customer, they're not paying the roofer. And I'm always siding with the tenant. I think tenant, because they live in a house, they have the right to share their experience. Even if they're not paying the bill, they're still interacting with the service provider. In my opinion, they can definitely write a negative review. So if you're the contractor, it's not a green light to do anything you want to do and behave whatever you want to do. Have a cold one on the front yard because it's not a homeowner, it's tenant, right? You have to be professional, even if you work in a commercial property, nobody owns the building, but you still have to respect the residents. If you're a public worker on a public street, you still have to honor pedestrians and stuff. So you can't just say that, it's not my customer and I don't owe them anything. Do you guys agree with that statement or no?
I agree. I think the tenant is really should be really important to the contractor. Making them happy is going to make the landlord happy, right? At the end of the day. But I also would say that a tenant can usually be more difficult to deal with than a landlord. I've seen that a lot, especially for small things like if you remove the satellite to install the shingles and make sure it's done right. A tenant's not going to be happy with that, where a landlord is going to be more acceptable to it, understanding that you're doing a good job, making sure that you remove that, put it back. But the tenant it's just not going to be happy with that. It's a little bit different. But I think you should always make the tenant happy because that makes the landlord happy in the end.
I agree.
Yeah.
Randy looks like he doesn't agree.
Well, the oxymoron here is that it says a really big company, a well-known company, and landlord in the same sentence. Generally, in our experience, landlords try to go with the cheapest possible guy. And so it's more than likely they were indulging a little bit in that portion of their story about it being a well-known roofing company. But everything else fits perfectly with what I've experienced with landlords oftentimes.
I mean, in this case, think about it. Like, they set the house on fire. There are kids around, right? So, there's safety concerns. You cannot be mad at tenant for demanding explanation. As a contractor, I feel like I owe apology to anyone that who is affected by my work. It could be even neighbors, like the way we do business and the way I teach contractors to act. You owe it to your neighbors. If music is loud, it's good practice. Go talk to other people. Don't be an ass and say that I'm only responsible and accountable to the person who hired me. That's just not true. Let's go to the next one. A roof contractor gave me a quote on a roof in writing and took 50% deposit. He came back after signing a contract and wanted an additional $7,000. Said he figured the squares were wrong. Does he have to stick with the contract? He said his program was off and he demands more. The customers told him to give back deposit, but he is waiting. What's your take on it, guys? Looks like contractor made a big mistake. There's $7,000, not a change order, but just a mistake. Should he give money back?
Go ahead, Randy.
Yeah, I would on this one, I would say if the contractor was the one that truly made the mistake, then they need to eat it. At the end of the day, because there was a contract in place. That's why it's very important on your contract that it says, for example, ours says we will be removing one layer of roofing, because if we get up there and for whatever reason our guys didn't initially see it has two layers, well, then we have grounds to go back to the customer and say, hey, look, there's a second layer of roofing. I'm going to be charged for that, so I need that to be addressed. But if he just left it ambiguous, we will replace the roof, then it's on him.
Yeah, I can agree with Randy. I'd say there's some red flags here. If I was a customer, first thing I would do is get my 50% deposit back immediately. I wouldn't move forward if the roof hasn't been done and just find somebody else. This doesn't make me feel comfortable at all. The way I look at it is sometimes we're over when it comes to the roof. We order too much or we bid the job too many squares of shingles, and we bring those shingles back. And so we don't usually give a discount, but then sometimes we're off and we don't have enough for the job. That's our fault. And so that's where we lose. So I kind of average that out for us. I don't charge the homeowner more when we're short. I see that as our fault. So that's kind of how I look at it. But I would definitely get my deposit back and move on if I was a homeowner at this point.
100% agree. I'll share my story from my experience, and for all the contractors who are listening, This is a lesson for you. I remember years ago, it was 2013, 2014, one of the very first years in the roofing business. I have a customer ask me to bid on a barn red CertainTeed shingles. For those of you who don't know, barn red is the most expensive shingles to produce. Like they're just the cost of materials. Like at that time, it was over 10 years ago, shingles were $80 roughly per square, and now like the red color was $140, almost double the price. Well, this contractor bid it on a project and he gave them, typical price. Like he didn't account for the color and he didn't do his research. I did. So I gave the price. My price was, I want to say $2,000 or $3,000 higher than his bid. Homeowner calls me later, 2 weeks later. He did not go with me. He went with a cheaper bid. The contractor came back and says, I did not do my research. I need a couple more $1,000 for the red color. It cost more. And the contractor called me back, even though now it's the same price, my price and his price. And homeowner was not comfortable. If you make mistake like that, you cannot put it on the homeowner. You cannot ask for payment. You should eat it. That's my position. And I've won quite a few jobs because of that, because I did my research. So if you made a mistake, you either gonna return the money, but you cannot go back to the homeowner and say, pay me more because I made a mistake. That's just, you're in business to do it right in the first time, even during the estimate. When we come back, we have more spicy stories for you. Today, we have way too many to share. We'll be back. This show is sponsored by Contractor Directory. If you ever hired the wrong contractor, you know it can turn into a nightmare. Directory helps you avoid all of that. Every pro is background checked for criminal and financial red flags. And with a $20,000 guarantee on every job, you are protected if anything goes wrong. It's totally free. Just head to directory.com or download the app from the App Store. Directory, the safest way to hire a contractor. And we are back. Today we're answering all of your questions. If you have a question for us, your contractors, this is the best place to ask them. 612-558-4881. Text us your questions and maybe we'll be answering them in the next show. This one comes from Andy Riago. I'm about to get a new roof thanks to insurance, but how do I tell if a roofing company is using premium barriers or cheap ones? You say that it's important that they use premium, not cheap, but you don't say how to tell which are premium, which are cheap. I have an answer for it, but I want to hear from you guys. Randy?
Well, both of our companies, both Eustis and DT, do use brand products that are very well known, I believe. I know we're an Owens Corning shop, and Jason, you guys are GAF?
CertainTeed.
That's what it is. That's right. CertainTeed. So generally, when a company is utilizing a higher brand, that's naturally going to indicate the premium solutions. However, there are items that sometimes those brands, and they're going to hate that if they're watching this, they're going to hate that I say this, but you pay a premium from the contractor side for their name being on it. Things like the felt, the synthetic felt, the ice and water shield. Although ice and water shield is more prevalent in Dimitri's market with snow than it is in our market where we have more fair weather. We use ice and water shield in the valleys and around chimneys and what have you. But as long as the company that you're working with has, and this is past shows where we talked about making sure you choose the right contractor, they're generally going to use a good quality product, but it may not always be the brand of the shingles that they put on. That's just a business decision, for the company.
The way I read it, though, Randy, I agree with what you're saying, but I think the angle here is a little bit different. So this is this is insurance claim. So I think the question here is insurance claim. The roofer going to remove everything. So think about this: if it's Owens Corning job, right? So insurance going to say removal, replacement with a likewise quality, right? So let's say it's a Grace underlayment, peel and stick, it's a higher quality, right? And roofer and insurance pays for it. Insurance pays to replace what you have. Yeah. But if a roofer goes and buys builder's grade felt, builder's
Right.
grade ice and water. So technically speaking, insurance is paying for it. So if a roofer, I think that the way I would answer this question, and I always have been it for over the years, you have to ask yourself or ask your roofer to identify all the products they're using. Because if your roofer is just saying file paper and no
Right.
brand, there's probably a reason for it. And if you have something premium on your roof and you're getting downgraded, that's what I don't want to happen. That's, to me, it's almost like a fraud because
Well, in some quick advice that you can give a consumer is, let's say, because I would probably assume that 90% of our consumers that are listening to this fall into this category, and that is they look at the scope of work and it's just a different language. They don't even understand what synthetic felt is. And one of the sponsors of the show, Directory, they have a service where you can actually send your scope of work in, and they will define it for you. They'll explain to you what it says and what to make sure you're asking your roofer for, so they can kind of be a language translator, if you will, for
absolutely.
you on that. So, but yeah, absolutely. If it says synthetic felt, that's different than the black paper felt that a lot of roofers will try to use to cut corners. If it says that the Valley had Valley metal and you see your roofer go back with ice and water shield or a black matting material, that's actually an upgrade. That's the case with our company is we won't use metal back in the valleys. We always use ice and water shield. So, make sure you ask questions, but if you educate yourself through services like Directory, that will give you what to ask.
But
I got an answer for this too.
go ahead, go ahead.
So I got a unique answer. First of all, like you can't trust any manufacturer's warranties. They're hard to come by where they actually honor it. So the best one, honestly, is going to be directly for the homeowner. But the way I look at it from a roofing company standpoint, a customer is first thing you got to do is you got to pick the roofer that you ultimately trust the most. Like who's the roofer that you feel like is the best fit for you? And for me, once I figure that out, I'm going to go with the company that they recommend as far as a manufacturer. And the reason is that roofer has extreme leverage with that manufacturer. So if I buy from you as a roofing company, but choose another manufacturer, they're probably not buying huge quantities from that manufacturer and they have zero leverage when something goes wrong. So I think that you should pick and trust in the roofing company that fits you the best and the shingle that they're recommending and that they use on 99% of their jobs. That's who I'm going to trust because I know that roofer has leverage when it comes to that manufacturer. They're buying huge quantities and they can hold them accountable at that point. So to me, the only warranty out there is the leverage warranty that I call. It's leverage. It's the leverage that the roofer has against the manufacturer or Directory, right? That's a leverage point.
I would say a rule of thumb is the more specific they are in writing, the better. I have seen estimates, and thank you, Randy, for mentioning it. If you're listening and you are going through that process of picking estimates, I mean, I've done it for the past 5 years now. Send me those 3-4 estimates, and I'll email you back who I think is best option for you. Because I have seen estimates where people don't even specify brand. They would say architectural shingles, felt paper. Like the more specific they are, the better for you. Because I'll give you an example. You can go to Menards, Home Depot, or Lowe's, and you can buy felt paper. The one roll will cost $40, another will cost $90, and some cost $150. So your insurance might be paying you $150, and your roofer might be paying $50 because he's saving $100 on a roll. That's not the saving that goes to your pocket, but to his pocket. And the only reason he can do it because he did not put it in writing. So ask those questions, and it's actually the best question to ask during the interview. Hey, what underlayment are you going to use? What brand of ice and water shield you're going to install? Because if you see it in writing, you ask to specify the brand. Let's go to the next one, guys. New roof installed. Question comes from Woodstream 6137. Found out subcontractors didn't remove bad wood over part of a garage. It has ridge venting and should have used some sort of adhesive underlayment like rain and ice water. Went into the loft so you can see the underlayment through the 2 softball size holes in the wood. Do they need to redo the whole side of the garage, or can the rain and ice be merged with existing work so only the bad sections need replaced? What do you guys do if you see, like, what advice would you give? And I actually have seen it quite a few times. And for those homeowners who maybe thinks that it's a small deal, it is a big deal, and I'll explain why contractors are doing it. Roofers make money when they replace roofs. They get paid by squares. Usually it's a very fast process, in and out, right? So, you know, our workers, whether they're employees or subcontractors, doesn't matter. They know that they should do it. Everybody knows it. But the problem is, if you cover it, it comes down to integrity of the roofer. If you cover it, because you don't want to go to Home Depot, you don't want to waste 2 hours, back and forth to buy extra, piece of plywood or one buy what's not. And a lot of roofers, unfortunately, they're all humans, and some of them don't have good ethics. They just cover it, right? And actually, it's true not only to roofing, it's true to flooring, to drywall. Just cover it up and not deal with it later. But if you catch them doing it, like, what's the proper action in your opinion, guys?
Well, just obviously wood rot, which if we back it up a little bit, that's another reason why you want to make sure you choose a reputable contractor, because oh, I think I have a video issue.
It's okay. We can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay. So yeah, but use a reputable contractor who is going to take the roof all the way down to the deck. And that way they can identify rot. That way that they can identify maybe accessory. It sounded like when they mentioned 2 softball sized holes, these are not made by Mother Nature, I would assume. They're referring to old accessories that were probably through the roof at some point that are no longer relevant. And instead of cutting out that section of the roof and putting down a new piece of wood, they just covered it. And not only is that terrible practice, because wherever those shingles fall, that nail is not going to have a bite if it's either rotten wood or if there's a hole in the roof because of an old accessory. And that's going to make the roof susceptible to wind damage in the future. And so, yes, absolutely. Whoever this Woodstream 6137, you want to require that your contractor come back, remove the shingles from that area, and replace the decking in that area so that you have a solid system.
Agree.
Yeah, I totally agree. One thing I want to add to that is, for us, like, we incentivize huge incentives for the roofers to replace the wood. Pictures, we document it all so the homeowner can get those pictures. So if I was that homeowner, I would ask for the pictures during the job site, so you have that and you can kind of see what's going on. That should be something that's easy to get. But as Randy points out, the nails, what we see in Florida is the nail will actually work its way back out and cause a leak. So it'll come back through the shingle if it didn't hit anything. And we actually have to penetrate the wood by a 1/4 inch here in Florida to make sure that the nail doesn't come back out. So if you're not even penetrating, it'll work its way back through the shingle and cut a hole back through it, and then the water will come in. What I would do is I would try to get the roofer out to fix those areas, pull the shingles out, fix those areas, make sure you're comfortable with that. Maybe it doesn't need the whole side pulled off. Another thing with roofers on the job site, if the material is there, they will do the right thing. A lot of times, if it isn't there, is when they actually don't do the right thing because of a speed issue. They want to get the job done. So I always find that they typically want to do the right thing, but you have to have it there or accessible for them, or the speed that you get it to them. So for us, we have project managers that look through the pictures to make sure it was replaced, that are walking the job site, that have the plywood in their trucks to make sure it's accessible. And typically a roofer will always do the right thing if the material is there.
Well, if it's managed properly, I agree.
Right.
But I would say, as a homeowner, first of all, this is one of those negotiation pieces, and it should be in your contract to begin with, that your contractor will do it. It's just setting up those expectations. On top of that, you can ask the question, what's going to happen, and what's your process of repairing, stuff. And also, if you do notice it, don't compromise it. I mean, your roof, your shingles, if we're talking about asphalt, life expectancy 15, 20 years. If it's metal, it's more than that. So think about it. If you cover a soft spot, it's going to be sagging. It's probably going to start pulling some water. You're compromising entire roof, and you might have issue 5 years down the road, which is... Go ahead.
I was going to say, let's set some expectations properly as well from the contractor side to the consumer. And that is, it isn't the contractor's responsibility to cover the costs for rotten spots throughout your roofing system when they tear off the roof correctly. That should be a cost that you incur as a homeowner. And sometimes your insurance company, if it's a claim, will pay for it. Sometimes they won't. In our contracts, it says the first sheet of decking is included in our install. So if we can find 2 or 3 spots and use that sheet of decking, no charge to the customer at all. Every piece of decking after that will cost the customer a specific dollar amount. That way the customer understands at the contract stage that there may be a cost incurred, but we're going to show you photos of the rotten spot. We're going to show you a photo of it completely cut out and then the new piece of wood put in place so that they understand where that cost came from. So don't expect your contractor to incur the cost, because sometimes it is a maintenance issue. Maybe you had a leak in that section of your roof, some shingles blew off for years ago from a windstorm, and you neglected to fix that. Well, water got past, rotted the decking. That's not your contractor's fault, but it is the contractor's responsibility to be professional and to point that out to you at the install stage, and then of course do the work and charge you for it.
And Dimitri, I have a way to solve that for the homeowner to get the roofer back out. So in Florida, and I don't know where they're at, but you can actually call the city or the county and report that you have an issue with the installer, the roofer, the contractor. And if they pull a permit, the city will meet the contractor back out there. They'll require them to fix it. And if they don't, they won't let them pull another permit in that city. So depending on where you're at, not everybody has that accessibility, but a lot of times I'd call your local municipality and report it and see if they can help handle it.
Absolutely.
You always have reviews that you can use as well.
But I would also add one of the most important, though, in all of this, the reason why you cannot compromise and just forgive and move on is because the reason your roof will be compromised is because manufacturer warranty. No manufacturer will warranty. They all require solid decking. You know, if your roofer went over it, now you don't have a warranty. Even if you register, your manufacturer going to come out and say, well, we're not going to guarantee that shingle is going to last because there's no solid base. So when we come back after the break, we'll talk about what will happen if a roofer who install your roof go out of business or dies. We have a spicy question from our listener. Wait until we come back. This show is also brought to you by the Good Contractors list in Dallas, Texas. Need a contractor in Dallas? Don't take chances. Use the Good Contractors list. They meet every contractor in person and check their background, so you don't have to worry about anything. And if something goes wrong, you are covered with a $10,000 guarantee. It's free to use. Go to thegoodcontractorlist.com to get started. And we're back. This question is awesome. I love everything about it. Can you tell me, what do you do if your roof installer or a contractor ends up dying 3-5 years after the installation and his business closes down? How does the warranty of his company work? Do anything at this point? Who becomes responsible then? It's like my relative that bought an extended car warranty, thought a dealership, and when she needed it, the dealer said, "We're sorry, but we sold you a third-party warranty for $1,200, and that company went bankrupt. If they weren't bankrupt, we would fix it." This is why I don't buy any warranties anymore. Either they went out of business, or look at the small print, we don't cover that. The same must go with the roofing businesses. When I heard my installer's company owner died and closed up shop, I felt screwed. The only thing I cling to is maybe the contractor that I actually paid that subbed it to the roofer might honor that warranty. Great question. What do you guys think? 3 to 5 years. So 3 years later. I mean, by the way, for our listeners, 95% of contractors go out of business in 5 years. That are just the numbers. Like, deal with it. Like, it's reality. Most roofers go out of business in 5 years. They're market leaders. There's few of them, right? So you should not be relying on your roofer to be in business forever. Companies sell, companies go out of business, they move. I mean, whole bunch of stuff. But your warranty mainly is with manufacturer materials, and your warranty is also can be provided by third parties. Guys, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I'll go ahead first. I typically don't trust manufacturer warranties to begin with. And what most homeowners don't know is manufacturer's warranties typically only cover defects anyways. And a lot of times homeowners are having problems with leaks, and that's not usually covered on a manufacturer unless you buy the elite manufacturer warranty. So typically they don't honor anyways. And if there is a defect with your shingle that's going to cause you a problem, when the manufacturer comes out, they're going to deem that maybe it wasn't installed exactly correctly, and they have a way to get out of the warranty. So I wouldn't put a lot of stress into it because a lot of the warranties actually don't benefit you, the homeowner, typically. And most warranties are created so that contractors spend more money on different products to put them together. And so a lot of manufacturers charge more for the components than the actual shingle itself. And they require you to use those components to get the warranty. So most of the time the warranties are just smoke mirrors. They don't actually cover much. And so I wouldn't be really worried if I was the homeowner.
I agree. Randy?
Yeah, I mean, he took most of it. I would just default to my normal is make sure you know who you're going with. If they are a long-term reputable company, then the likelihood of them going out of business within their warranty. I absolutely love when I see contractors that give lifetime warranties on a roof. Uh,
Or
it's
manufacturers do the same thing.
Yeah, manufacturers do lifetime. Well, they'll say limited lifetime, and then they'll put a depreciation on it. But when an installer is giving a lifetime, technically it is lifetime in that if for whatever reason their install fails, then they'll come back out. But generally, you're going to see them do anywhere between 3 to 7 years labor. Within 3 to 7 years, if your roof hasn't failed, it's probably not going to unless wind or hail gets a hold of it.
Agreed.
I would say this. If you're the homeowner listening to this, this is where I draw the line. And this is my advice. Go with your guts. Use common sense when someone tries to sell you warranty, because a lot of warranties are upsells, and that's how companies make profits, both manufacturers and roofers. I've seen roofers charge $2,000-3,000 for extended warranties. I've seen manufacturers require 5 accessories to buy from them, and which is cost arm and a leg because it's all overpriced. So it's upsell. So don't be a sucker. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Use common sense. I mean, if you buy a car, life expectancy of the car, if you buy a Toyota, it's going to be 150, 200,000 miles, right? You're going to get it. And if someone comes to you and say, for extra $5,000, we'll cover it up until 5 million miles. It sounds too good to be true, right? But a couple 100,000 is similar. It's reasonable. The same with roofing. Like life expectancy of typical roof, asphalt shingle roof, 15-20 years. You should expect that. And if something happens to your roof, your roof's still probably going to be lasting for at least the period of time if it's done right? Now, if you were talking about flooring, painting, when I go to Home Depot, you see faucets, you see all the products like lifetime this, lifetime that. I use common sense when I read those, and I don't buy extended warranties unless they make common sense. Some do, some don't. And I'm not saying that do your own research, but if your gut is telling you it's probably not going to last, it's probably not going to last. It's probably sound too good to be true. Let's go to the next question. I love this one. I'm going to skip, guys. We have a list here. I want to go to Dwayne Gilhart, 3291. I have 2 contractors supposedly bidding the same roofing system and same tear-off replacement, but are about $8,000 apart in price. The lower bidder claims to be getting special deals on the roofing system materials from the manufacturers. Is that a thing, and how do I compare them? The lower bidder is a friend, and the higher bidder is a neighbor and a friend. I'll start with this one because I help homeowners through directory.com to go through estimates. I actually have an almost identical scenario 4 years ago. I have 2 actual good friends in the Houston market. One of them was $21,000, another one was $28,000, so it was $7,000 apart. Homeowner called me, it was scheduled a call, and I did my investigation. The reason one was so low, he was buying truckloads and he was passing all the savings to the homeowner. So sometimes you have those guys. actually gave the guy business advice not to pass all the savings to the homeowners, because when homeowners see the cheap bidders, they actually raise red flags. What's wrong with your materials, right? Like when you're just buying bulk, and people will be skeptical, and nobody likes, I mean, not popular opinion, roofers think the homeowners trying to get a cheaper price. Not always. Cheaper price is usually a lot of red flags. So if you're the homeowner and you're getting a very cheap price, you should be concerned. You should investigate what's behind it. But in this case, if that's true, if he's buying direct or in bulk or whatever the case is, I don't have red flag there. And maybe you just found like best secret in your town, and do it. Why not? But as long as it's not Chuck in a truck who's just buying second grade shingles, guys.
Well, they did say here that the low bidder was a friend. So I know that I've done some work for friends and family that at a price that I wouldn't probably do normally for just our client base. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be in business at those rates. So that is a variable there. And it may be a perfect storm where they're both helping out with their price because it's a friend, and they happen to buy some of their accessories bulk. And so ultimately putting those two together, they are that much of a difference. It could be the other contractor really thinking a little bit higher of themselves than they need to be, and maybe they need to look at their margins. And this is all assuming that they are correct and that it is bid apples to apples, because sometimes we've literally had customers that have come back to us in our business and said, why is there such a difference? And then they'll actually redact the pricing, not tell us what the difference is, and then we'll go over the actual description, and we'll be able to point out the differences there and say, well, they're doing this, we're doing that, and then the customer then understands. So there might be some assumptions that Dwayne's doing here, Dewey is doing here, but those could be variables.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I would leave it up to the highest bidder to explain why they're higher, right? Like I'd want to know why you're higher. That's his duty if he's higher, to explain it and find the differences. I would let him find those differences, compare the contracts, let's figure out who that is or what the difference is. To me, one of the biggest differences on a roof system a lot of times is the installers. What makes a really good roof job compared to another? And so I would be asking questions like, how long have these guys worked for you? Where's some previous work that they've done? Give me some addresses and maybe a previous customer on the lower end guy that you've worked for, and you can compare the products. Look at that roof, talk to that homeowner. These are the only ways I feel like you can protect yourself. But the biggest one to me is, who's your installers? How long have they worked for you? And tell me why they're significantly different. But leave it up to the person with the highest bid to explain. I'd like to hear it from them.
Still, $8,000 is pretty big gap just on installation part. And what a friendly guy. He has a lower bidder, neighbor is a friend. He calls everybody friends, right? Everybody's friendly. Love it. Last question before we go on a break. Which gutter guards will not void a shingle warranty? Great question. We have so many gutter products on the market.
I like this question. I've seen this come up a couple times. To me, I love gutter guards that attach directly to the fascia that don't slide underneath the shingles. So in Florida, we get a lot of wind-blown rain, and as the water's coming off, it gets blown back underneath. So we really need that sealant to do its job. And a lot of times that gutter screen is going to break that sealant and cause issues. So if I'm installing a gutter screen, it's going to directly attach to the fascia of the gutter. Nothing that goes underneath the roof system is going to be good for the homeowner when it comes to gutter guards.
Yep, that's what voids the warranty, is that starter strip and first course being broken. And so, like Jason said, any gutter guard that doesn't require you to break that seal on the first course is going to keep you in your warranty.
I would add one more product that is not going to void the warranty, but please don't do it. It's those sponges that you see in Lowe's and Home Depot. Every year they sell so many. Those sponges are absolutely the worst. I've done gutter guard comparison every single year, and those, I've removed so many of them. If you like grown plants, that's the perfect bed for your plants, because all the dust gonna collect there, and you're gonna start having trees, year 2 or 3, super fast. So they're not gonna void the warranty, but please do not use it. And you will notice that every store has them, because people just put them in, replace them every year. I absolutely hate them. Do you guys agree that it's the worst gutter product on the market?
I agree. You can get a lot of bugs too, like a bunch of different things living in your gutters. And so I would not install those. Seen them many, many times.
It's just
Yeah,
asking
I've
for
seen
trouble.
I've seen plenty of plant life growing out of those things from the roof side. Yep.
All right. When we come back, we're going to finish it with a few more very, very spicy questions, starting with a person in Iowa who just bought a house and started having major issues within the first 30 days. When we come back. This show is sponsored by Contractor Directory. If you ever hired the wrong contractor, you know it can turn into a nightmare. Directory helps you avoid all of that. Every pro is background checked for criminal and financial red flags. And with a $20,000 guarantee on every job, you are protected if anything goes wrong. It's totally free. Just head to directory.com or download the app from the App Store. Directory, the safest way to hire a contractor. And we are back. Next one is a nightmare experience from Iowa. Randy, I'll let you read this question.
Yep, this one's from @2nita_Ellis276. Man, I had to read this twice just to make sure that I couldn't believe it. But they wrote, "I live in Iowa and just purchased a house a month ago. I did all the right things, inspections and all. It turns out I just purchased a money pit. After one rain, the basement is flooded. The roof is leaking in soft areas on the roof as well. Outlets not working. Doors aren't closing properly. Floor has soft spot. The list is longer than the medication I take for my cancer. Can't use my washer because the drain pipe is backing up. I had an electrician out to repair live wires that were hanging. I've paid an inspector I paid the inspector only to have my money returned back to me and not guide me through this. Please help. Should I be waterproofing the basement or the roof first? I feel lost. I can't imagine the amount of money I have to pay out for this." You know,
What a story.
the inspector is absolutely should be held accountable for this, not just giving their money back, but they need to take the inspection report and go speak to, and I'm not a litigious person, but they need to talk to somebody.
Are there laws for it? Like, can you should be able to sue inspector because they should be liable for some of the stuff. If you buy a house and they miss something, I mean, you would not buy it in the first place.
I get, and I'm biased here on being a roofer, but I could see maybe them missing a roof leak because you're looking at a roof, you can't really maybe see flashing that isn't done right or whatever. But some of these things are so egregious. Live wires, having to have an electrician out to fix live wires. Yeah, I would definitely have somebody look at this report and see how these things could have been missed.
I would say something on the inspection that you mentioned. Are they liable? A lot of times on an inspector, everything on their paperwork says not liable. Like you have to sign all of that. They don't really hold any accountability. I think one of the biggest people that are liable is a selling realtor. Usually they have a heads up on this. They work with this person. They're the ones that I would look at as being really liable. And then as to like what to fix first, I'm going to say the roof. Interior of the house is probably more important than the basement. So I'd fix the roof first. Honestly, too, on inspections, I would always have separate inspections. I would have a licensed roofer look at the roof, not a home inspector. They can never really see a lot of things that roofers are going to identify. So that's the first thing I would always say is hire a licensed roofer to look at the roof.
And I would take that a step further and with the realtor that you're working with, have them have a professional in the roofing space look over the roof. The HVAC system, have an HVAC technician give even if you have to pay a little bit for it from a seller's perspective,
Agree.
It's going to catch these things. Have a foundation guy come out and look at the foundation. Home inspectors, God bless them, they're doing their job, but they are not professionals in every single one of these trades. They are given some training and then they're sent out to do their inspections. And some of these guys have been doing it for 35 years. They have a lot more experience and they'll catch things, but it always is best to have a plumber, an electrician, have these people come out. Oftentimes they'll come out and do it for free because they want your business in the future for things they may find.
One last thing on that too, Dimitri, I just want to mention this. If you notify the city or the area that you live in, they a lot of times will actually make the realtor go out and help remedy the situation. That typically works really well. In this area, I've seen it happen.
Absolutely. No. Well, I feel bad for the homeowner on top of cancer, on top of all things. Looks like there was almost like buy it as is. Like I bought my last house as is, but you signing off like, hey,
Right.
whatever I find, that's on me. And this one is just, I feel bad.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next one. I had a fire. How do I know whether the insurance company is giving me enough to fix the roof? Great question. How do homeowners know? The only real damage was the fire department caught in a hole in the roof. Normally, I would just fill in the hole with a new plywood. Insurance company said to tear off the existing shingles and reshingle the whole thing. Is there any reason to change plywood on the whole roof? It looks in good shape where I can see the insurance company didn't give any money to replacing the plywood. It's probably a roofer the way I see it because I don't think it's a homeowner who's asking it.
Well, I have some experience in this area, not only from the roofing perspective, I'm also a
Right.
17-year retired fire captain. And I can tell you that, and I've worked claims like this, and I can tell you that out of the gate, insurance companies generally don't pay correctly, not for malicious purposes, but just out of ignorance. They don't know what it actually took when a fire department stuck their hose down in that hole to make sure that there was no more fire. They wet all of the insulation in there, which could cause mold issues. There's a lot of carcinogens that are still inside the attic potentially, or in the drywall beneath that need to be remedied. There is such a person. Let's see, they're called a hygienist in the insurance world, and they come through and they will actually test to make sure you don't have anything left behind on the inside that can harm you and create cancers and things like that. So you do have, I would say at minimum, you need to replace the damaged area on the roof, but you want someone to take a really close look at the attic and make sure that the water that they used didn't create any additional damages that can harm you in the future.
Also, I used to work for installation company, and I know when smoke happens, installation sucks in smoke. We work on quite a few claims where we have to come in and suck. It's not mentioned in a question, but I would also argue that more times than not, insurance companies pays to suck in installation because that smoke, that smell will never go away.
Mm.
Installation kind of sucks it in, and you have to remove it. So yes, it'll absorb the water, but also smoke. So usually those claims are way bigger, and it's not visible, but it's there.
Absolutely.
Funny part is he's looks like he is more concerned about plywood than shingles. Shingles to him, but do you think the shingles needs to be replaced if he doesn't see the damage there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think even the plywood can typically need to be replaced because it's compromised from the heat. So you can have it deteriorate a lot quicker and cause dips in the roof in the future. Most of the time on a house that has had fire on it, the plywood has been exposed to extreme heat and can go bad prematurely.
Yeah, because a lot of those have laminates in them,
Hmm.
especially if it's an OSB or what have you. The way that material is put together is a heating process, and so when heat is reintroduced to it, it does weaken the polymer, or not the polymers, but the adhesives in the product that can weaken that area of the roof.
Got it. Let's do one more question. We still have time today. I love this one. I'm interested in a metal roof, which seems to be touted as becoming the standard for all areas of the country. The info I've read so far seems to imply that manufacturers will be doing all the installs. It caused me to wonder if metal roofing does become ubiquitous. Will Chuck and the Truck, as you name them, or even smaller roofing firms be shut out of those installs, or will they be able, with the proper updated training, to do the metal roof install too? Interesting question. I don't actually see a lot of manufacturers installing the roofs these days. Do you guys see them in your areas?
No, we don't see manufacturers that install it. We do see things like watertight warranties where you can get that from the manufacturer, and it requires a process for the installer. But it's typically manufacturers do not install metal roof systems.
Yeah.
Do you
I wouldn't
believe
recommend
do
that.
do you believe that metal is the future and that's where we're going?
Here in Florida, we see it becoming a big part of the future. We've seen even the state move to maybe shingles won't work in Florida. So I do. There also are a lot of new products out there like Euro Shield that can be rubber and stuff like that that can serve a good purpose besides metal. But I'm a big metal guy. I love metal. I think in Florida too, you can only put so many roofs on a wood deck. You only so many nails in it. So a metal can solve that problem. We're starting to see that here in Florida.
Yeah, and in Texas, we're seeing a lot of stone-coated steel going on because with the metal roof, the standing seam, the R panel, because of the cosmetic clauses that are often written into a lot of policies, uh, the roofing system can get damaged but not compromised, and so now a homeowner has to live with their roof looking like a 16-year-old's face for the rest of their the time living there. Whereas with like a stone coated steel type of solution, because of the way that it looks on the roof, it's very busy, and so it hides smaller dings that wouldn't necessarily justify replacing the roof through insurance companies. And so it'll still look nice even with it having small dings in it.
So it just adds the character pretty much.
Yeah.
So I would say that metal is definitely, it's probably the biggest disruptor in the roofing industry. More and more asphalt shingle manufacturers actually invest in buying metal companies. So we have quite a few of them who already purchased smaller players. So the move is there. I mean, the asphalt shingles manufacturers were the biggest, 80% of the market, but now they kind of start dominating. But I don't see with this question, this person sees, I don't see manufacturers actually installing. So I think
No.
we're still going to have a lot of small mom and pop shops who will be installing roofs. Last question today, quick one. I live in Washington, WA, and built a tiny house, 24 square feet long and 8.6 square wide. I've now interviewed one roofer who have the jaw full of chew, which he kept spitting in the yard and said it would take him 3-5 days to do a metal roof and it would cost $4,270. Really? Ice and water, underlayment, and metal. What do you think?
Goodness gracious. Just the square footage of the house would denote about a 2 square roof. So let's double that with any amount of pitch. 4 squares for $4,000. That's extreme, I think, for a tiny home like that.
What do you think, Jason?
It depends on like how cut up it is and like what it actually entitles when it comes to the roof. You know, it's like one of those things I always got to look at first. It could have a lot of penetrations or wall flashings, stuff like that. So it's really one of the things like I would always put peel and stick down or ice and water before any metal. That's usually a good sign if a contractor wants to do that. Yeah, high temp peel and stick. I would always put that down before I do any metal. So that's a good sign. But it has to be high temp, like Randy said. It just says ice and water, and it should be a high temp peel and stick or ice and water.
Well, and let's address what they are talking about and why they're even asking this question in the first place. Had that person who was representing that company acted professionally on the onset of meeting the customer, they probably wouldn't have written any of this. But as soon as the guy's sitting there chewing on his tobacco, spitting it in front of the customer and all that, now it starts to question, is anything this guy doing professional? You know, if the basics of just how you carry yourself in front of the customer on initial contact is like that, then that's going to automatically. So this is a good point for the contractors out there to present yourself professionally. Otherwise, you're going to get the customer second guessing everything.
It's a $2,000 a square though, so it's a 2 square roof, $4,000 total. It's going to take him 3 to 5 days, metal and everything. I mean, he's making good money. He could be a little bit more professional. So
yeah, one recommendation on that: any roofer that likes to spit tobacco, I would not walk around the perimeter while he's roofing. It could be a bad deal for the homeowner.
I agree, 100%. You might be losing jobs without even knowing it. That's it for stories today, guys. If you have any questions for us, we'll be answering them next Saturday. You can text them all to me, 612-558-4881. We will respond to everyone. See you next Saturday. Stay safe out there.